fuck. This still hurts. Yes, Sam! You know, you would think that taking an eyeball to the face would be more pleasant, but shit, man. Okay, what did I miss? That was one hell of a mess. Okay. Hello, brothers and sisters. My name is Daidarius, and welcome to the review of Avengers Endgame. So, Avengers Endgame is the final movie in the MCU for now. And I know we're gonna get Spider-Man Far From Home, but as the Infinity Saga consists, this is the final entry. We will not get any more in the Infinity Saga. The first 3 phases is done. It is it. This is it. There's no more. So all we can really hope for is when these 3 phases is said and done, that you will have one big story that doesn't really lead up to any follow-ups, any sequels. So if phase 4 crashes and burns, at least this is complete and, you know, doesn't leave any loose threads. So the question is, does it? Well, let's find out. Now this is probably the hardest movie to review ever, because anything that I say about this movie is actually a spoiler. You can't talk about this movie without spoiling it. However, I'm not gonna spoil it, because even though that I said in Infinity War that it was 10 years in the making and, you know, 18 movies, this is the 22nd movie in the MCU. 22nd, that is Bond level of movies. I'm pretty sure that the 007 movie franchise is the only one who had that many entries. So it's quite an achievement. So 11 years, 21 movies, now this is 22nd, so what can I say about the plot without giving anything away? So here goes. As we saw at the end of the Infinity War, Thanos won. He did the snap with all the Infinity Gems, and now half of every life, 50% of every living creatures in the universe is now dust. That means that Nebula and Tony Stark are left on Titan and need to get home, or at least they need to get back to Earth. Everyone on Earth needs to cope with the fact that now all of their friends is gone, and we have no idea where Thanos left, because he just teleported away and is now on a distant planet on his farm. So meanwhile that Tony Stark and Nebula tries to get back to Earth, the Avengers who's left on Earth are angry with themselves, they are frustrated, they're sad. Every emotion that you can feel, they feel, except for happiness. They want to try and find the Infinity Stones to, you know, snap everyone back. But how do you do it? Where do you start? How do you get Infinity Stones from Thanos? And just what is the plan? Is it to get revenge, or is it to bring everyone back, or what is it? So they're gonna try and find Thanos and make this shit happen. Then stuff happens and things turns out for the worse. That's what I'm saying. I can't really talk about this movie without spoiling anything. What I've talked about just now is the first 15 minutes of this movie, give or take, maybe less. That means that we have 2 hours and 45 minutes left to talk about, but I'm not gonna talk about that. All you need to know is that the Avengers is hell-bent on finding a way to get their friends, their family, their loved ones back. And they're gonna do it in a way that some people might have predicted, but I'll tell you this. You'll be able to predict a lot of things before you go into this movie. However, there are still a lot of surprises that you do not see coming before entering this movie, which is a positive thing. So let's just say that the Avengers are angry and need revenge and get people back. That is the plot of the movie, so let's just drop it there so I don't spoil anything. So let's jump into what I liked about this movie. So what did I like about this movie? A lot. If you think that you're gonna get as much action as you did in Infinity War, you will be extremely disappointed, because this is a pretty action-less movie, but it's for a good reason. This movie's tone and atmosphere is very melancholic and very depressing and just all around shit. Everyone is frustrated, don't know how to cope with this. All their loved ones disappeared before their eyes and they don't know how to get them back. They don't know how to move on. So the movie spends a lot of time with these characters and how they cope and just deal with this situation. And it is not in a happy or pleasant way. And I just like the fact that the former movie was this action heavy piece and now this just dials it back and just focuses on the consequences, the outcome of the former movie. That being said, you will get some action, and trust me, when the action hits, whoa. It is probably one of the most intense action fight sequences I have ever seen in MCU. Just damn. I also like the way that this movie dealt with finality, and by that I mean this is the end, this is it. So whatever happens needs to be conclusive, needs to be eternal. It just needs to be so that you don't go back and change it in the later movies. This is supposed to be it. The movie really does a fine job to show you and make you feel like this is it. Yes, there are some aspects of the movies that kind of retcons this, but for the most part, this does feel like this is the last hurrah for our main Avengers. Also like the fact you won't see the A-game from these Avengers. None of them at the end of this movie are at the top of their game. They're not ready to deal with the coming confrontation. They're not at the top of the game. They're not fit for fight. They're not anything because of everything that happened in Infinity War. Everyone is at the end of the rope. They don't have much more to give. They don't have anything left to give or any reason to care, but they're still gonna do it because they are the Avengers and they make damn sure to avenge 50% of everyone. And the action sequences also kind of reflects this fact that they are not at the top of the game. But in the meantime, it kind of ups the stakes. It makes everything more desperate. That's another thing I liked about this movie. It's the feel of desperation. Everything seems dire. They have one chance to pull off whatever they want to pull off. And if that fails, well, goodbye everyone. Goodbye everything. That is it. And I must also say that I like the fact that this movie focuses on the main Avengers, the original one, the original 6. Hawkeye, Hulk, Iron Man, Thor, Black Widow, and Captain America. Because for the most part, this is their final movie. The actors' contracts are not going to get extended for newer movies. At least I don't think so. Maybe some of them will, but for the most part, this is going to be it. And just the way that this movie just paid respects for the former 21 movies that had come before this one just uplifts this movie in more somber but melancholic way. I just felt like the Russo brothers was really paying homage to everything that came before it, and this movie just shows it. And also the acting is some of the best acting you have seen in the MCU because everyone gives it their all. This is what pretty much the whole MCU career is gonna be measured on. The acting is well done, the visual effects is still... How did they do that? The visual effects are awesome. The music score, especially the Avengers theme, gets played a lot in this movie to hammer in that this is the Avengers. The pacing is kind of a weird one. It's not clunky or uneven, but for the most part of the movie, it is kind of a slow burn because we're gonna build up to the final fight, the final confrontation, the final battle. But I really don't mind anything because you just want to spend as much time as you can with each of these characters that most of us has been following for 11 years. So any time that you just can slow down and spend with one of your favorite characters is moment treasured because you're probably not gonna get the chance later on. I mean, you can see the movies again, but it won't be the same. And then there is the ending. The ending was almost perfect, I would say. I mean, it might not cheer you up, but it's gonna tug some heartstrings. Just put it that way. All in all, this movie is pretty much what you need from the final entry in the Infinity Saga. But not everything is great. There are some issues with this movie. First of all, Thanos is one of them. Now, I'm not gonna say that Thanos is bad in this movie. It's just that the movie doesn't really use Thanos that much because Infinity War was Thanos' movie. It was what set him up, made him complex, makes him real and three-dimensional and kind of relatable. I mean, you understood his motivations and why he did things, whereas this movie, he's not present that much. I mean, he is there and he is gonna fight the remaining Avengers, of course, but just his character in general is not as intriguing and interesting as it was in the former movie. Now that does have something to do with the plot in this movie, and even though that the plot is interesting, the movie could have used Thanos better in my opinion. The same goes for the plot or the plan that the Avengers want to pull off to save the day. That aspect could have been used better. There are tons of creative ways they could have used this aspect, but unfortunately it's just used in a plain and simple way, and I just wish, given the fact of the former movie, how complex it even was with this plot, that this one kind of tried to up the ante just a tiny bit, because that would round off this movie perfectly. But unfortunately it's just kind of simple in a way. And then there are some characters who make some decisions or changes in their characterization that I don't really get. I mean, yes, there is a reason for that, and I won't talk about it here. There needs way for this to be okay, but for the most part I didn't like how some of these characters ended up acting in this movie. And also the final fight left something to be desired, because there were some characters that I wished we focused on more than we end up doing. But other than that, I can't really say much about this movie. Yeah, maybe that's... I wished it had more action. And I know I just praised it for not having as much action, but I wished it just had 1 or 2 scenes more complex action sequences than just a simple fight. Again, this is not what this movie is going for, so it's just kind of nitpicking. There's more things that I didn't like about this movie. There's more things that I liked about this movie. But again, I can't really talk about it without spoiling anything. So I will save that from a pros and cons video on this movie, which I hope won't be an hour long or anything. And I know it's hard to convey to you how awesome this movie is without talking about the awesome aspect of this movie. But I will put it in this way. This movie is not the movie that I expected, nor is the movie that I wanted. But it is the movie that I needed to finish off and end off the Infinity Saga. And by that I mean we had a lot of ideas of how Thanos is going to be used in this movie, how they're going to use the Infinity Stones, how everything is going to wrap up and all that. It probably won't reach all of your expectations, but when that's said and done, this movie is the best way to end everything. And what you're left with is a lot of mixed feelings. And I don't mean that there's something you dislike in this movie, but it's more like a mix of fulfillment for everything that you got and emptiness, because for me personally, I have watched every single movie in the MCU, every 22nd of them, or 22 of them, when they hit theater through these 11 years. And now it's over. And again, I know we're gonna get a phase 4, but it's not gonna be the same. There's a high chance that everyone is just gonna get fed up with superhero movies because they have been dominating the past 20 years. So, and for me, this is the end. And again, I'm gonna watch the phase 4, but it's not gonna be the same. So it's kind of the feeling you get when you graduate from high school and education, or just when you have been on a journey in some kind of way for a long time, and now it ends, and then you're left with fulfillment and joy, but also kind of emptiness, because now there is a big hole that used to be filled with this thing. There's no longer presence. So that's what I mean about mixed feelings. What you get about this movie is you're gonna get great acting, you're gonna get great visuals, you're gonna get great music, you're gonna get a pretty dark and melancholic plot and just atmosphere. You're gonna get an extreme awesome fight, especially at the end. Unfortunately, some characters are gonna suffer from this direction this movie is taking. There are some plot points that are not utilized in the most creative and interesting way, but just in the most normal and safe way. And this movie is the end, which is never good, because now we're not gonna get more. No, I'm kidding. So I will say that this movie is not only one of the best MCU movie ever put out there, but this movie is probably the best franchise ending in movie history. And I will say that Avengers Endgame, it is worth watching and worth buying on Blu-ray. So yeah, it's not perfect, but it's good. That's the movie. Again, it is kind of hard to review it without spoiling anything, but if you need to take anything away from this review, it will be go watch the movie if you have watched the 21 former movies. Oh, and also I think I can spoil this. If you feel that Captain Marvel is just gonna wipe the floor with Thanos and just be a Mary Sue, don't worry. She's not. The Russo brothers handles her character very well in this movie, and also the fact that she's introduced as the 21st movie in this franchise, so it would be kind of annoying if she was just going in and win everything easily and all that. So no. Again, the focus is on the main Avengers. Oh, and also there's no post-credit scene in this movie. There's no mid-credit scene, post-credit scene, or anything. When the credits arrives, that is it. That is the movie. I will do be seated while the animated part of the credits is still rolling, because you will really appreciate when you get to the end of that. I'm not gonna spoil it, but that really hit me. That hit me hard. But anyway, Avengers Endgame. Have you seen it? What did you think about it? But don't spoil anything, because that's gonna be for another video. And how do you think it rank among every MCU movies? high, low, in the middle, whatever you think. Comment below me your thoughts, and as always, until I see you in the next video, remember to stay awesome. Bye! This is the end. It's just the end, my friend.